Hello, welcome back to the Wagoa podcast. My name is Amara Barnes, and this is the voice of the armed female patriot. It's been a bit since I've done a podcast, but it felt really good to get back into it, especially because I got to meet another badass woman named Tamkin Collins. She is the founder of Cakes Concealed Carry. You can find out all about it at cakesconcealed.com. It's a brand new concealed carry bag, and it is beautiful. You know, most concealed carry bags are pretty dang ugly. You know, they're really hard to, not only they're hard to look at, but they're also difficult to access the gun. And she has solved both of those with her one product. So I think you should really go check it out. Cakesconcealed.com. You can use Wagoa10 and you'll get 10% discount off your product. Tamkin is somebody who has had to overcome challenges that I would not wish on anybody. I can't believe what an amazing person she has turned out to be. And it's just a really inspiring story to have her tell. Everything from immigration to being abused as a child and then learning to fight back and everything that she had to learn in order to become the person that she is. And the resounding message is don't give up and know your worth. But once again, another powerful woman brought to you by the voice of the armed female patriot. Enjoy. Okay, that's it. And we are ready to go. Tamkin, where are you?
I'm in sunny Palm Springs. It is absolutely beautiful. It is 85 degrees and clear skies where I'm at today.
God, I'm so jealous. That sounds amazing. We had just a couple of sunny days over here and then just back into the doom and gloom. It's Washington, so it's what we get most of the time. Which that makes it beautiful, but it's real drag most of the time. So I'm really excited about this interview. Last time we talked, you told me a really heartbreaking story that I think everyone needs to hear. But the good thing about the heartbreak is that it winds up being a really empowering story in the end. So let's get a little bit of a background, if you will, kind of what brought you up to, what you're doing today, what brought you to Wagoa in this conversation.
Yeah, so honestly, I have been involved in firearms for just over a year now. And one of the, I think, greatest things about being involved in firearms and being in my local gun club is that we have a pact of women. It's all women. They shut down the range and they open it exclusively for the women in the community to come together and have 2 hours of just exclusive range time. And in that 2 hours a month, I have built some of the closest and most special friends in this last year that have been, honestly, I hope none of my besties see this interview, but I mean, honestly, I could say that they've surpassed friendships that I've had for 20 years. The amount
that's amazing.
Yeah, just a true support. And, just even in the path of like starting Cakes, they're the ones that have been coming through. They're the ones that have been showing the support, buying the product, reposting the stuff. And I feel like there's something really special about women that come together and burn gunpowder. And when I saw Wagoa, I was like, wow, we can do this at a national level. Like, wouldn't it be nice to have an entire nation of women that empower each other, care about each other, and show up for each other when it matters? And firearms is just one part of it, I think. I think the ultimate underlying current is women empowering women to take care of themselves. And so that's kind of how I found you, and we ended up here today. But I was looking for you. I guess that's my answer.
Yeah, I was looking for you too. But weren't you in law enforcement? I think I'm getting maybe this mixed up. What's your professional background?
So I'm an aerospace systems engineer. I work for the U.S. Space Force.
Oh, okay.
Kind of. I don't know if it's law enforcement, but it's maintaining America's space superiority. But we do a lot of really, really fun stuff. And I think the law enforcement tie really is with Cakes. When I first started Cakes, a lot of female law enforcement started reaching out and wanting the product and trying it. I think LASD Wives was a group that reached out also. It just happened to be something that really resonated with female law enforcement.
Interesting.
So I ended up just making a bunch of female law enforcement friends, including Megan McCarthy, who's kind of viral at the moment. So that was, I think, the tie.
Oh, that's amazing. Could you go back and tell us even more about your background? How did you grow up? And if you can lead into the story you told me last time, what happened to you as a child? And then what you learned about fighting back?
Yeah, and this, I think what do they call the origin story? Or they call it like spawn story these days. Gen Z calls it. But it really did start with being powerless as a child. So my family is originally from Bangladesh. We immigrated here in the early 90s. And one of the things about, I think, being first generation immigrant is a lot of ties to foreign culture that don't necessarily serve you anymore when you're an American. And it really started with my family life.
Well, I hope you can bench press your way out of an ambush. Women don't get the luxury of size, strength, or chest puffing. We don't square off in fair fights. We get grabbed, dragged, and ambushed. If your training doesn't account for that, you're set up to fail. We don't do one size fits all. We train for what actually happens to women and how to win anyway. Do you? Join Wagoa. Because we both know a solid RBF is not enough.
So in Bangladesh, it's going to go way back, but in Bangladesh, women are not the favorite sex. And, a lot of the culture is built around everybody wants to have a son, everybody wants, if you have a daughter, it's almost a shame. And having multiple daughters is looked down upon. And I'm hoping it's not like that anymore. But when my family, my mom was growing up, that was the case.
Yeah.
So when we came to America, my mom went through a divorce with my father, and that was like unheard of in the culture. Like, oh
Right, I
my
was gonna
gosh,
say, yeah.
you're gonna get a divorce. And she was under a lot of pressure to get remarried because women can't take care of themselves in my cult or Bengali culture. And I think she succumbed to that pressure and went ahead and married someone just that was picked for her, an arranged marriage. And once that happened, I, very early figured out that this man was not someone that was going to be, a positive figure in my life. In fact, he started to sexually assault, molest, to do a lot of really, really terrible things. And as a 12-year-old, you kind of don't know what to do when stuff like that happens. And I was, again, raised in a culture where you don't even talk about having your period until it happens. Like,
Right.
it's shameful to have a period. It's shameful to talk about sex or anything that's like, hey, someone touched me inappropriately. It's just
Right.
super shameful. So going through that at a really early age, I had expected that, the adults around would have done something about it. I did try to bring attention, to my mother and talk about, hey, this stuff is happening. And it was very much like a, hey, that's really shameful. You shouldn't be talking about it kind of situation.
And you were in America at this point, right?
Oh yeah, I was
Yeah,
in
okay.
Los Angeles. I was in Hollywood, the corner of
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood and Fuller
Mm-hmm.
was where
Yeah.
all this was happening. And I also went, going to school, you would think, why didn't the teacher do something? Why didn't your friends do something? I think we were all just kids. We were all 12 years old. We're in 6th grade.
Yeah.
We have homework. So it's like you're sexually assaulted at night. You wake up in the morning, go to school, come home, do homework, and try to maintain your grades because
Yeah.
God forbid you get a, God forgive you get a B, and then you can't come home because Asian culture is just insane. But
Poor baby.
yeah, it was really really rough, and I think I can talk about it really normally now because I think I've done a lot of processing and therapy since then. But I think those moments really built up to me reaching a point where I decided I was never going to be powerless again. Because if the adults were not going to come through for me, if everyone was going to question whether or not I was telling the truth, or it became this whole thing of, well, your father that your mom left is convincing you to say the story. It's like a disinformation campaign to, like, take down my stepdad, where it's like, yo, I'm 12. Like, I don't know what the hell is going on. All I know is there's a man in my room at 3 in the morning trying to touch me. So eventually, I decided a couple of things. Again, I was a kid. I decided to get a BB gun, and one of these days, and things got. I mean, I think if I go really deep into it, I'm gonna start crying. But it got really bad. Like, my mother would ask me to please help her family life be peaceful by finding a way to make him comfortable.
Right.
So then I was starting to be forced to.
Oh.
This is embarrassing. I was starting to just. My mother really just wanted me to go on drives with him and go on walks with him. And it was really weird to think about, like, hey, my daughter is complaining that she's being sexually assaulted, but instead I'm going to force her to figure out a way to deal with it and accept her situation so that I can be happy. Or
At what point did you realize this is not okay, this is not right? Was there a moment, or was it the whole time you were thinking, somebody help me, please?
The entire time I was thinking, somebody help me, but I don't know why. Probably because I was 12, that I was like, hey, had I just screamed and shouted from the top of a mountain, somebody would have came. But I didn't, because if the first 3 adults I tell think that I'm a liar or that I'm bringing shame to the family, then maybe I'm the one that's wrong.
And you don't know.
And
I mean, I have a 12-year-old. He has no clue about anything.
yeah.
And girls are even more delicate. And then to have also the culture on top of that and a mom that doesn't support you, I can't believe you got out of that.
Yeah, it was a lot of different steps. I think there was, moments that I can remember that will stay with me forever, unfortunately. Like one time where we're driving to somewhere because I'm being forced to go on a drive, and I'm memorizing, okay, what exit are we going? Are we going on the 10 West? And as a child, to be that vigilant, to try to figure out, how am I going to get back? Where are we going? Are we going the wrong way? One time we went into the mountains somewhere. I don't know where. He was taking me deep into the woods. And I remember seeing, like, a random family, just like a mom, a dad, 2 kids, with a little campfire, and just like running towards them, because I felt like if they could see me, then maybe nothing bad would happen. So it was rough. So when I get into the details, I get emotional, but like talking generally, I'm normally okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was one time I jumped out of a moving car because I was just like, I don't know where this car is going to take me. And then I got, a BB gun. It was a gift from someone, and I hid it in my shirt, and he took me to a park at night, and it was dark, I couldn't see, but I shot him in the face with a BB gun. At least I got a couple of shots in. And, and he thought it was hilarious. He thought it was so funny that I was just fighting so hard to not be assaulted. But I was gonna fight every day. I didn't give a shit. Like, he can try all he wants, but I wasn't gonna just accept it.
Yeah.
And then one night, I slept with a knife under my pillow because I knew he was gonna come in my room. And I waited until it happened, and I stabbed the shit out of him. There was blood everywhere. I just remember the pool of blood being so big, and I was so happy. And it's disturbing to think about, but I was just like, finally something happened. And of course, we're screaming, everyone's yelling. My mom comes into the room, and she takes him to the hospital and leaves me at home to watch her other kids that she had. They were infants at the time. I mean, I love them. They were the best things that happened from that marriage with him. But I realized that no one was going to help me. I think at a certain point, I had like a little high school boyfriend that I told all this to. He ended up calling the police. Social workers came to take me away and put me in foster care. And I remember my mother just like, Asian culture, you're on your knees, she's holding my feet and she's crying and saying, you're going to destroy my family if you do this. As a child, you think, wow, I'm going to ruin my mom's life if I go live in foster care. So eventually I ended up moving in with my dad in Texas. And even then, she would put him on the phone with me, and he would threaten me and say, you think you can get away from me? I will be waiting outside your school.
Oh my gosh, how terrifying.
It was rough, and I had a lot of times. I remember when I first moved to Texas to get away, I couldn't sleep through a night. I would just wake up, and it sucks. Like, my husband's amazing. We've been married for 10 years. Sometimes I still wake up, and if his arm is over me, I'm just like, who the fuck's arm is this? And then I just have to take like a moment to realize that it's okay. I'm in a safe place, and it's something that really, I think, stays with you forever, even if you do recover from it and can live life. But I think it's one of the things that really drove me to pursue, like, how can I become a person instead of being scared that I can be very scary. So I guess it tangentially leads to like everything I've done in life.
Well, it did wind up making you who you are, right? That you can't deny that. I would never wish that upon you again, like you don't want that to ever happen to anybody. But in the end, you're strong enough. It made you strong enough to be the person that you are and to overcome even greater odds. If you think about the struggles that you've been through now, and it's like, well, I've been through something way harder, way worse. It puts things in perspective, and I think it just made you a really amazing person.
I mean, yeah, I got something out of it.
Most gun groups think that women just want a ladies' range day and a pink holster. No one knows better. Women want more. More training, better gear, real opportunities to grow. That is why we offer quarterly virtual education that keeps you learning between range days, sharpens your mindset, and prepares you for real-world threats. True defense isn't just about shooting. While it's important, it's about never being an easy target. Sharp awareness, smart training, and a community that has your back will keep you ahead of the fight before it starts. Join WGOA, because we both know you're too smart to train like a target.
Something out of it.
Yeah, definitely. But that's amazing. Like, you fought back. And so what did you learn about fighting back? Like, did that immediately stop, or how long until you were able to get out of the house at that point? Or did you have a waiting period?
Well, you know what? It never really stopped, but I did notice that the more I fought back, the less convenient it became of a situation for him as a predator. And I think ultimately, maybe you don't win every fight in your life, maybe you don't win every battle, but, by golly, make it hard.
Absolutely.
So I think that's what I got away from it, is I noticed that the more difficult I made it, the more I fought, the less he would, behave as a perpetrator. Finally, in the end, I think it took me 17 years to scream. So when I was not 7 years, since 12 to 17, finally as a 17-year-old, he came into my room one night, and it was my first time screaming, and it makes me think, why did I never scream? So, yeah.
I think that's something that everyone can relate to. Not necessarily that everyone has experienced something so traumatic, but yeah, why don't we scream? Why don't we make a big deal out of things? Yeah. And it's because that is discouraged in America too. You're called hysterical, and they make it sound like you're stupid, or you're making a big deal out of nothing, or you're too emotional, too dramatic. Mm-hmm. And so that just overarching feeling like you're not supposed to, that's why we don't scream. Yeah. And that's also what predators are hoping. And so it's up to us to start changing that culture and start changing the way we value ourselves and what we're willing to do to fight back and protect ourselves and those that we care about.
Yeah. And we can't keep protecting the peace of the perpetrators.
Yes. Yeah. So then you started getting into guns, you said about a year ago?
Yeah, just a year ago. And honestly, it's always been on my mind because I've always been really, really into, those type of things. Like I've always, like, for example, CrossFit was really, really big in my life and all the things that would make me feel powerful again. So I've had kind of a history of doing Spartan races, CrossFit, really, really, I don't know, they call them masculine things. And then finally, I think after 2020 and the country really taking a swing for being a little bit, I mean, California, very pro-criminal with the legislation that's being passed.
Right.
And so me and my husband finally decided, you know what, we should probably get a gun. And it started with, we're going to get a shotgun for the house.
Yeah.
It always starts. It started with, let's get a shotgun for the house. And I decided, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and get the CCW. We're going to do everything legal, everything legit, get trained. And man, I nosedived into gun culture, and I just, I was, an ex-liberal. I was a vegan, and I was very much, like very Black Lives Matter, all that stuff. I was totally like media brainwashed, full-on left, liberal. But it took one gun, and I started opening my eyes and seeing, wait a minute, all these laws that I've been voting for don't make sense anymore.
Right.
Like I need to make up for lost time. So I started getting involved in like the CRPA and the board of directors here in the Coachella Valley. And it just all kind of just started happening. And then this empowering community of women that I have here just really it's a catalyst for my involvement and my passion, because not only did I get to be cool and shoot guns and reclaim my ultimate power. I think guns are the ultimate equalizer between a big, strong man and a 120-pound girl like myself.
Definitely.
And the community that it brought to me as well. It went downhill from there. Let's not talk about the budget or how much money I've spent on firearms.
No, let's not talk about that.
But yeah, it's really just been an incredible journey and a really fun one too.
Sadly, yeah, I think that, well, most women, I believe, are one close call that they survive by chance or one horrible crime against them away from buying a gun, away from getting some training. But until something like that happens, like for me, it took COVID as well.
Yeah.
We have a lot in common with that, where I had thought about it, definitely. And I had always intended to, but I never once in my life really felt scared. And I suddenly felt like, okay, something's not right. This is really not right. The longer it went on, I was like, okay. And within a few weeks after the first shutdown, I was like, I'm buying a gun. And I had just met my boyfriend then, now my husband. And I didn't even tell him about it. I just went out and I was like, this has got to be a decision that's just for me. I don't want anyone's input. I need to go figure this out, because who knows if he's going to stick around. I don't know. I'm just going to go do this. So long story short, like that is, it took that and for me to feel really unsafe to suddenly be like, I should probably take action here. So why are we waiting until that moment when we are forced to take action? Because the boogeyman doesn't wait. He's just going to pick you, right? Yeah. And so you either are a victim or you're prepared. And so I truly hope that more women become prepared every single day.
Yeah, absolutely agree on that.
Yeah. So you've mentioned cakes a number of times, and maybe you can show us the product so that people know what cakes is and tell us about it.
Okay, so this is the first that I'm actually wearing right now. So this is a concealed carry bag. It's a leather. Honestly, it's just supposed to be a really nice minimalist bag for CCW. And once I got my CCW license, I wanted to carry every day, but I wasn't going to carry appendix all the time because my outfit just didn't allow for it. And a lot of people say, well, you're going to change the way you dress. No, the hell I'm not. So I needed an off-body solution, but I also agreed with all my instructors this off-body is not like a strong solution. You're not going to be able to draw fast from it. And purse carry is honestly, I put my purse down sometimes, so I understand the implications of potentially losing your gun because of it. Someone can come snatch it. It's not with you. You are not in control and possession of that firearm if it's on the floor next to you in a restaurant. So one thing I did notice is I wear crossbody bags, normal part of my fashion and part of my life. And I was wishing, what if there was a bag that I could deploy a firearm very fast from and also looked cute? There are CCW bags that have fast deployment that are very tactical looking and manly looking. And then there are very cute girly purses that are ridiculous. I would not keep a gun in there. Sure, they call them CCW purses, and I own a few of them, but it's just a pocket in there for your gun, which at least there's a pocket specifically for your gun. I'm going to be digging through water bottles and diapers and makeup and like then get to my zipper. So I came up with this concept. It's honestly built on a few other bags that I've owned, but we ended up putting everything together, and it's got the key feature is just this fast deployment. I don't know if it's going to work if it's not on my body. I've never done this, but you pull forward and it exposes your firearm. So some of the instructors that have been training with this purse have been able to go from draw to shots on target in 0.7 seconds, which is, to me, it's like IWB status. That
Wow.
is, I'm not there. But I will. I'm not there with IWB either. I'm not there at all. But they are there. You know, they do this for a living. They train people. And I was like, hey, you know, to me, that's a success. It looks cute. There's a gap. And I thought maybe if no one buys this product, at least I have a cute purse for myself. So I'll treat it like a luxury purchase for myself. Hey, you know what? All this money I spent, I got a purse from it. How is this any different from buying myself an Hermes bag? So yeah, that's what Cakes is.
I love it. Well, it's really pretty, first of all. I haven't received one yet, but I can't wait to try it out. And, you know, I think purse carry is the first thing that most women go to when they first get involved with firearms. And it takes a bit of time and a little bit more training and getting used to how your wardrobe needs to be if you're going to constantly carry on your person. But I completely agree about the horrible options that we have as far as concealed carry bags and just how difficult it is to access the firearm. Now, I think that if someone does decide to carry their gun in a bag, they're trained about it, they understand that there's risks, they are assuming that responsibility. And that's okay. And that's one thing that I think I would really like to see the culture change their mind about, in that I'm not saying that carrying in a bag is the best way. I think we all can agree it's not the best way to carry your gun. You want it on your person for all the reasons you just described. But there are times when it makes sense, especially for women, if we had a really good solution for off-body carry, that would be very helpful. And we either do that or we leave our gun at home. And so if those are the two choices, I'm going to choose the bag every single time. And so especially if it's a bag that actually looks nice and doesn't make you look like you're going on a hike or something, then you're more and more likely to bring your gun with you. And like I said, I haven't tried it yet, but I've seen you demonstrate this a number of times. I would argue it's at least as fast as pulling your shirt up for your draw. That takes two hands. This takes two hands, right? And so you have layers. You're going to be concealed carrying. It's not like it's a one hand, suddenly you're ready to go. What are you, open carrying on your hip? No. Yeah. You've got a bunch of layers. You're all advising like, oh, wear layers. That way you can seal it better. You know how many layers it takes to get through to my gun? Don't tell me I can't use an off-body bag because it's too hard to get to. Like, it's all too hard to get to. Yeah. Let's be honest. Unless it's in like a level 3 retention holster on your hip, and, you know, there's ways that we could make this a whole lot better for everybody, but that's not going to happen that way.
Yeah, exactly.
So all to say, I think it's a really great solution for a problem that has been dogging women ever since they started to get firearms on their person.
No, absolutely. Even in my CCW class, I had originally planned to carry in some kind of a purse. I hadn't bought one yet, but immediately the instructors were like, absolutely not. We cannot condone that you do that. And I understood why, but don't box me into 100% solution all the time, because then again, I'm going to leave my gun at home. And one of the times, the only ever time that I wish I had my gun in this last 1 year, I had left my gun at home. Yeah. And I was just like, gosh. And you know, after that, I was like, absolutely not. I'll figure it out. And that's when the journey started with, how am I going to do this?
Shit, babe. We just got banned on Meta again. Sound familiar? How would you like to share content on a platform that knows it lives in America, where guns are not only legal, they're encouraged? At least that's the America I live in. Wagoa has got you covered. And, well, it smells like freedom. Yeah. Well, and you assume that responsibility, right? You know that, okay, I can't put this down. And even when I get home, you know, if you live with someone else, let's say, or you have guests over or something, you can't just go put it down. You have to secure it, right?
Yep, exactly. And it becomes part of your lifestyle, really, because, I mean, I'm at the point now, and I think it took me the entire year to get here, where if I'm ever going anywhere, wallet, keys, gun. So it's just a part of like everything that I carry with me every single day. And as soon as I walk home, because I don't take my crossbody off, bathroom, restaurant, whatever, it stays on me all the time. Right. And as soon as I walk home, I feel like I want to take off my purse, go straight to I got my gun safe right here under my desk. Yeah. Or the other one in my kitchen, or the other one in my living room, or the one in my bedroom. Yeah. Just walk to a freaking safe and get it stowed. Right. So I know there's a lot of guys that carry, you know, one in the chamber while they're at home relaxing. I'm not that person.
Yeah.
I'm not that person. I'll run to the bedroom and grab the shotgun.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of heated opinions about how to carry and everything. But that's one of the things, the industry is so black and white. It's like, if you
Hmm.
don't do this, you will die. Which
Yeah.
that's not necessarily true. I see in
Yeah.
your hypothetical situation in your head that you just came up with, that would be true. But that's not really how life always works. And so if you know that you have certain barriers between you and your gun, like you putting your gun in the safe. A lot of people online have just really rudely told me, like, you don't know anything. You don't keep your gun in a safe. How are you going to get to it in time? That's stupid. You don't know anything. Like,
Yeah, I'm gonna take my 2 seconds and get to it in time.
yeah, it's just, I have kids at home. And while I
Yeah, what are you
instruct them
gonna
about
do?
it, there's precautions that I feel that I need to take. And for a while, I was leaving it just on the bedside table, like when I'm home by myself for a night. And then I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like super disoriented and I'm like bumping it. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I shouldn't just have this out on the shelf. I realize that about
Mhm.
myself. So when you know yourself and you know how you're going to reach your gun in an emergency and you have that pre-planned idea of what's going to happen, you're ready. You're just as ready as that next person who thinks that you're not ready because they're not ready for your idea of what it's going to be. So I do want to ask, as a fellow entrepreneur, what do you feel has been the most challenging aspect of your journey to bring a product to market?
My gosh, so many things have been challenging. I don't think there's been anything that's been easy except for once I went to market and then everyone wants the bag. So I think the demand was there,
Yeah.
thank Jesus. But every single step of the way, honestly, I'll go through how it all started. It started with I know that there's going to be a solution. I've got to figure it out. I started buying bags on Amazon. What I would do, and I still got those bags hung up in my closet, I
Yeah.
would cut off all these. They had a lot of little pockets in there that I didn't need. I would cut all of them out, and then I would hot glue a Kydex holster into the inside of the bag, and or take a different patch of Velcro, sew it in there, then get a Velcro holster. And I was like, there's a way to make this work that can be doable. But then I started realizing that it's just like any other purse. Yeah, it's on body all the time because I'm crossbody wearing. But if I need to get to it, I'm still going to have to zip it open, make sure I get it. And every time I'm, putting my firearm in the bag or taking it out, the zipper barely opens, just the top opens. So all of these things I just started writing down, and I started complaining because I love to complain. I would complain all day, and my husband's like, Tamkin, you should make this purse. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with it, because me and my husband, we already have a real estate business where we have rental properties, and that's another headache. So we work our day jobs, and then we have our rental incomes. And then we had Airbnbs for a while where we literally were like cleaning toilets on the weekend. And it's like, wow, I got my engineering degree and my MBA so that I could clean toilets on the weekend. But you really just do everything. And I didn't know if I was ready for that again. And what he did was he's like a legit artist. He by trade, he is a designer. He works for really, really big like movies and TV shows and things like that. And he decided to make a 3D model of the purse, of what it would be. And then I was like, oh, okay, it looks really cute. And he said, why don't you just find out how much it would cost? We don't have to do anything, just find out. So I started making some calls, and I didn't know what the hell to do. Like, how do you make a prototype? So then I started asking ChatGPT, how would I do this? And ChatGPT was like, hey, you probably would need to find, like different people to give you quotes. And I interviewed 12 manufacturers, and it was going to cost like $8,000 to make one purse.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang, like, I really shouldn't do this. This is
That's
too
why I
much.
didn't do it.
Yeah, I was like, I can't afford this. Like, this is such a huge risk for me to take. I have a job. Like, we have other things we're doing. Do we really need to do this? And that's when Marcus said, wouldn't a Louis Vuitton purse cost $8,000? Just why don't you treat this like, if nothing else, you have the purse you wanted. And I'm like, oh my God, fine. And so Marcus was like, hey, we'll pool our money together. We'll figure it out. And I was about to pull a trigger on this company. And mind you, I wanted to make everything in America because America first. It was going to be like $250 at cost per purse for me to make in America. And I was like, no one's going to be able to afford this purse. Like, if it's going to cost me $250, I'm going to have to charge like $500. And it's like, I'm not Fendi. I can't charge $500. Then we started looking at outsourcing and those companies. China was out of the question because I work for the Space Force. Adversary. I just didn't want to do it. Okay, I've got my reasons. And then my dad came in super clutch. So He, we're from Bangladesh, and my dad is a extreme extrovert and keeps in touch with everyone he went to college with. And he had a friend that so happened to be his college buddy that owned a leather factory. And I was like, oh wow, this is like such a coincidence. And I was gonna give my contract to this Texas company that was gonna source in China. I was like hating myself, like, oh my God, China. And then my dad comes in and says, just give it one more week, Tamkin. Let me talk to her. And then she came back, and they ended up cutting out all the money I was going to pay was actually going to be to pay a translator to work overnight, to speak Mandarin back and forth, to be able to do the project management for me. So I was able to cut all the project management costs and go factory direct because I could speak the language. My mom did a lot of things wrong, but she made sure I could speak, read, and write Bengali.
Amazing.
So I was able to cut thousands of dollars in cost to be able to make my first prototype. And then I had it, the first one wasn't good. The zipper wouldn't open, the back of the purse kept catching on the frame. So we did like 4 iterations to make this purse. And once we did, I was just like, okay, sinking the money into to make it, like, it was going to be like tens of thousands of dollars to get just the first quantity. And I was like, oh my gosh, do I really want to do this? Do I want to like put it on a credit card? What am I going to do? This is going to sound crazy. So I asked ChatGPT. ChatGPT said, why don't you go apply for some small business loans? And I just started randomly emailing like small business loan people from the SBA website. And this guy calls me, and he's frantically like calling me like, oh my God, like, how'd you get my number? And I was like, it was on the SBA website. You put it there. And he was like, oh my gosh, like, this is crazy because I do SBA loans, and I'm a CCW instructor in LA. And I was like, what? Like,
Oh, perfect.
it was incredible. It was like fate,
Yeah.
and he got my SBA loan through. He pushed it through. He was like, I'm personally invested in you succeeding, because he was like, I need to see this bag exist. So that helped me get my first amount to be able to like make my first production. And that was again challenging. But I do feel like with all these different challenges, I was very lucky. Like things kind of fell into place to where I truly felt like, wow, I think I should be, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And I think those were like the main challenges. And after that, the current forever challenge is going to be working an 8-hour a day job and working an 8-hour evening job and not having any weekends or nights ever, period. I think it's gone. That part of my life is gone. And I think that for you too, right? It's never going to be a normal life of, hey, I'm just going to take a break. Like even when my husband and I go date night, like literally the entire date night, we're discussing, okay, here are your tasks for the next week. Can you get me, the 5x7 that we were talking about? We need to design this. I need an 11x17 poster for National Women's Range Day. We need to figure out what our script is for our next video. Just nonstop, all the time, forever.
It's not forever. You are in
I
hustle
know.
phase right now. This
I know.
is your hustle and your grit and your belief, and you manifested everything that you just told me. Like that's not luck. That's you. That's you creating what you really wanted. And it's amazing how the universe delivers what you are asking for when you get really clear and you just don't give up.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like that is something that you can manifest, including not always having to work nights and weekends. And this
Yes.
will manifest how you really want it to be. But if you want to keep working nights and weekends, that's up to you. But
No, I'm gonna work on.
I think with a little more focus and clarity on your part, absolutely, within a short period of time, about a lot shorter than you might think, you can be free if you want to.
I would love to be able to hire a team. I would love to be able to like have more women on the team that really care about the mission and really care about empowering each other through firearms or not firearms. It doesn't matter. But that's the next phase is getting through this first year and looking into being able to like create a team that I can trust and that can help this brand grow.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it seems like through every difficult thing that we have to overcome, it just makes you into a bigger person, and a bigger person who can handle even more down the road. Which if you have some kind of a growth mindset where you're always wanting to build, always wanting to improve, then you're always going to feel a bit off balance and like you're not really empowered, and it's just difficult. But fact is, through every challenge that you have overcome, you're now at that next level and you're just motivated to get to the next level. So at any point, I feel like you should really be proud of yourself, because this is something that's not for the faint of heart. I would not recommend starting a business to practically anyone. It's really difficult, to say the least. But I do think that, perseverance and inner strength, it's a muscle that you have to work. And it takes a certain amount of courage to do that. And so you had the courage when you saw the problem and knew that you had some clarity and you had the support that you needed. you were able to actually overcome that challenge and take your strength and your heart and just go for it. And you're sticking your neck out there too. There'll be tons of people who will criticize you, especially because you're trying to sell this stuff online.
Oh, yeah.
So, we could talk about that for a long time. And I always talk about firearms training as a perfect example, because for a lot of women, that is really freaking scary and really, really difficult for them to get themselves to a point where they can actually handle a firearm proficiently. But yeah, I feel like it's a muscle that you can work, and you can just get better and better at it.
Yeah. No, absolutely, it is a muscle. And I think willpower is also a muscle too, because the more you survive and the more you succeed, the more it becomes enticing to chew on glass and do it again.
Yes.
And I don't have kids, but a lot of people say no one remembers how hard childbirth was. And maybe starting a company is the same, because, this is not the first company. It might not be the last, but I definitely want to see it all the way through. And I think one thing when it comes to just going back to manifestation, I think it's important to call out that never in a moment of any of this with cakes did I ever think that it wasn't going to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
There was a little bit of, ooh, this is a lot of risk we're taking, but it was never a fraction of a doubt on the actual brand and the product. Yeah. The doubt may have been, oh my God, am I going to have enough time? Is this going to suck? What about my vacation? Those kind of doubts. But I do think that's important for those who want to take on something big like this, is to erase the doubt in yourself and in your vision, and just go for it.
Yeah, definitely. Just go for it. And don't give up.
Yeah, don't give up is there are days, Amara, yesterday was one of those days where I just wanted to curl up in a ball and cry and feel sorry for myself. But then it's like, why? So at the end of the day, there's always going to be those hard moments. There's always going to be, critical feedback that is really, really important. I got into a fight with my manufacturer, not a fight, like a heated discussion on reinforcing everything, because we're coming out with Madeline 2.0, and I want to improve on everything we've learned from Madeline 1.0, which honestly is some of these instructors are beating up the bag. I'm watching these videos and I'm like, oh crap, it's 100% leather. It's not invincible. Nice. So now I'm thinking I got to figure out how to really make sure that this purse is invincible, as invincible as we can make it. So we're getting into discussions about how are we going to make things better. And no matter what, times are always going to get tough no matter what you do, whether it's your regular day job or starting a business or a relationship. But having the wherewithal to stick through it and just not give up means you're going to win, because all you got to do is not give up, right? You can have a million hiccups, but as long as you don't give up, eventually you're going to win.
Yeah, you will, because most people do give up. And then most of the pressure that you feel, to make a better bag, to get it on time, to all these deadlines, they're mostly self-imposed. Most people aren't going to care, which I'm kind of really? Nobody cares? And I think about it nobody cares. No, seriously, you're the only one who cares. Oh gosh,
But it's so big. My husband was literally last night. Why are you freaking out about that? Why is everything all the time right now? And I'm like, because it has to be that, he has this big thing of, why are we driving to the post office every day? Can't we pick 2 days a week where we drive to the post office? And I'm like, no, because they're going to get it a day faster, and that's a day, longer in their life that they'll be able to CCW. And he's just like, not really. You don't know that. So it is self-imposed, but at the same time, it's it is self-imposed because of the outcome that I'm envisioning, that this is the level of quality I want to deliver. And hey, maybe once I get enough team members, I don't have to be crazy anymore. But until then, yes, all about the self-imposed deadlines and deliverables.
But that's also why you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
Right. It's good to be that driven, but just know that it's okay to take a day and give yourself some grace and cry and feel it. Yeah. And then the next day, you're better. Yep. You just gotta stop sometimes, and that's okay. Just come back to it. Yeah. And like you're saying, to enjoy chewing on glass. That is one thing where, I had some stuff going on last summer, and then a couple months after that, and there were two instances in which I was just worrying myself sick about something, and it was something that hadn't happened yet. It was something that I was just oh, I'm pretty sure this is going to happen. I really ruined my summer because I was so worried about this thing happening, which didn't happen.
Oh my gosh.
And then the next thing was, we're supposed to meet this deadline, and we didn't wind up meeting the deadline, and we missed the opportunity, and I was just crushed, because I was just how did this expectation build up around it? But I had to come back after the fact and be no, my life is good, even without that. It's completely okay. You just ruined your month and your husband's month by acting the way you did and freaking out about something that, it's okay. You can just be happy now with where you're at and let the rest of the universe take care of itself and just manifest everything that you can without the expectation like it has to be exactly right. Because life's not going to give you exactly right every single time. Right. So,
Agree.
And the same thing with criticism. If I could give advice to everybody about starting a business with anything to do online, is that read the criticism and then really feel it. A lot of people say to ignore the criticism, but you can't, especially when you're first starting out. You can't. You have to read it and then you have to feel it and chew on it. Maybe cry about it. The first time that someone really criticized me online, it took me like a month to recover without like obsessing about it and thinking about it every day. But it just crushed me. I was so upset. And then after that month, suddenly it was just over and done. I was like, okay, well, that was weird. I didn't like that, but all right, moving on. And then the next time it happened, it took me 2 weeks to recover. And then after that, it was 2 days and then 2 hours. And now it's nothing. And if I hadn't gone through all that pain and processing it and realizing that those people don't mean shit. Like, they don't know me. They're a total stranger. This is just a troll who's being rude, who has nothing else to do but to say rude things online. Like, when you browse, do you take time to say negative things to other people's posts?
I don't think I've ever done that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I say positive things because, I mean, why not spread joy? But, like, why would, I don't understand where someone's mind is at to want to come to someone's post and think of something negative to say.
Exactly. It makes no sense. That's not somebody that we need to be giving energy to or even giving it a second thought. And until you get to that point in your journey where you can look at it, that means nothing to me, you still have to feel it. You got to go through that. And on the other end, it is completely worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's see. So how can we support you more? Of course, everyone should buy a Cakes Concealed Carry bag and learn about your company. But is there anything else that we can do?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately Cakes' goal is to have as many women empowered to CCW as possible. And it doesn't necessarily have to be through just buying the bag. Of course, that's going to add to my bottom line. Great. But if not, if you have a friend that is gun curious, be the sister they need to become comfortable. I think ultimately and I always told myself this, if Cakes can save one life, everything would be worth it. All the eating of the glass and the staring into the abyss would be worth it. And that may not be me or you whose life is saved. It may be some person that heard about not even Cakes, just concealed carrying or choosing to be armed. That, I think, is more important than anything to me, giving women their power and making sure that they can keep it. And yeah, I think the way to do that is just to, I think what you're doing with Wagoa is really important in that, actually, creating community and helping women take the steps to get more and more comfortable with firearms and finding that it's not so scary. And we can become masters of our future and our power and be able to learn what we want to. I mean, not everybody needs to become do tactical training on the weekends like me. I mean, not everybody's crazy. But at the same time, it's like the steps to having no way of protecting yourself to having something. And some of the elderly folks that I hang out with out here in Palm Springs, because everyone's retired, they're like little old ladies that have no guns or anything, or a baseball bat or nothing. They just want to call 911. We had a 911 outage here, not too long ago. Right. What happens when that that type of thing happens? What if then the power grid goes down? Anything could happen. Fires. So helping people really take control of their own safety and empower themselves to protect themselves is the goal. So if the question is how can we help Cakes by helping another woman or another person get one step closer to wanting to take control of their own safety and being their own first responder.
That's awesome. That's such a good message. All right. Well, you just left us with a great message, but is there anything else you'd like to say to armed or unarmed women in America?
I mean, what I just said, but beyond that is, I think last time we talked a little bit about sisterhood, and we're either a tragedy away or a sister away. And if we can focus on being the sister that somebody needs in order to take their next step in learning about guns, learning about, firearm safety, it doesn't have to result in them buying a gun and getting their CCW, but maybe just overcoming their fear of, oh my God, guns just go off, overcoming those kind of messages and helping people. I know that my two little sisters, they're 18 and 21, they're babies, and I took them to the range a couple times. I helped them understand, and they went from being terrified to curious. It was a couple range days to where they're like, I would do this again. And I'm like, wow, you had fun. This is amazing.
That's great.
So yeah, be the sister.
Awesome. Tamkin, thank you so much. This is amazing. Is there anything else?
Nope, thank you.
Firearms are a woman's weapon, the great equalizer. Some say that guns are dangerous, but let's be honest. Women can afford to be a little more dangerous.